Hello, everyone. It is Clint, your favorite comic book commentator. I don't know. We'll go with that. This is actually a really interesting article because it pulls back the curtain a little bit. Everyone's struggling with this same thing, and that is, do you make IP that you're going to give away for a page rate to a major publisher, or are you going to go and make your own thing? And this is actually Kevin Smith going through his specific struggles with this. Maybe some of you are feeling the same way. This is the headline: Warner Bros. Turned down Kevin Smith's DC Comics pitch because it was too dark. Too dark for DC Comics? Well, coming from the guy that made that Walrus movie, other Kevin Smith films that I know are very dark, I can only imagine how dark he went. So I want to get into this. It's a pretty interesting article and firsthand accounts what he says. But first, check out Downcast 3 Submerged on Indiegogo. Right now, it's like we're 2 backers away from hitting 32K, which is a good place to be. 2 days to left. If you haven't backed it yet, it's a great time to get in there and back it. Help support us. Help us get to 35K and beyond. I really want to hit 40K, honestly. But what I'm doing is I'm going to extend the campaign for another 2 weeks. So don't stress out. But if you haven't backed yet, it's, again, great time to do it. It'll help us jump up on the trending page and get more eyeballs on the campaign. So thanks very much for your support. All right. Okay, so let's look down here. This was on Kevin Smith. Was this Fat Man Beyond podcast? And this is actually really interesting. So imagine Kevin Smith saying this. I had, and he words this like he talks like a teenage girl when you read it out. When you hear Kevin Smith talk, I think he's actually pretty interesting to follow. He's got an interesting speaking voice, but when you read it out, it sounds like a 15-year-old. This is like a Valley Girl speaking. All right, so he said, I had that recently where we pitched a thing, and first I pitched it at like one place and they were like, holy F, we love this. And I was like, thanks. And they're like, we want to do this instantly, and we're going to find out if the character is spoken for somewhere else at the company. And then they came back. Well, it's spoken for someplace else in the company, but they don't have any plans for it, and they're very excited to hear your plans. So I was like, right on. And they were like, look, if they say yeah, it's happening. Do you see what I mean? I'm pausing there. Do you see what I mean? But here, this is an explanation. I spoke to Shane Davis about this on a live stream a long time ago, probably a year ago, about the process of trying to get a script that you wrote made into a comic, and the red tape is ridiculous. There's so much, like, the power plays involved. It's insanity. If you do your own comic book, you don't have that red tape. I've got to say, that's pretty great about it. All right. Say it's happening, and you hear that all the time in this business, and crap. And we just pitched, and the people that we pitched to were like, it's dark. And I was like, well, I mean, but it's also funny. And they're like, but it's dark. And so they didn't go for it. And it effing died there. That could be, in essence, mainstream comics. It died there. So many ideas just go to die. That's where they go to die. Who knows what other great stories could have been made. Now, I'm not going to say that Kevin Smith's idea was any good. Could have been terrible. He's a little spotty. Sometimes, in my opinion. Who knows? It could have been great. So continuing on there, he says, so rather than it, and it was for another thing that somebody else owned, but I have bought enough to it where I was like, this will totally work without their effing thing. I said brought. He brought enough to it that he was deciding it'll work without their character. And they'd have to understand that this is probably the question. That's the character he wanted to use, so he'd have to use his own character that stands in for the question. This is where Kevin Smith actually says something that I think is pretty interesting and resonates. He says, I got to that point where I was like, I'm effing tired after 20 years of trying to make the question, just go make your own effing thing. You know where I got that? Robert Kirkman. On our show, he talked about like working at Marvel, and he was like, look, it was fun, but I bolted because I'm like, why am I giving all of my best ideas, giving them all my best ideas, just because I love these characters so much? It's like I'm a hostage to my nostalgia. That's it. A hostage to nostalgia. This is the reason why I'm buying that Beast Wars series that's just terrible, because I'm a hostage to my nostalgia. That, and I haven't made the effort to go cancel it from my pull list. Those are the two reasons. There's so many people working in comics or trying to break into comics that are so desperate to work on the characters that they grew up knowing and loving that they will do anything. You will stunt your own growth as a creator. You will save all your best ideas, put all this work into those ideas, and go nowhere. You might as well go make a film. It would probably be easier. Kevin Smith, made plenty of films without it needing to be a character that somebody else did. If you think of it a little bit more like independent films, like you want to make a movie, what director says, I want to go out there and remake a film? That is my dream. I want to go out there and direct the next Marvel movie. People aren't saying that. That is not the dream. That is a stop on the journey. Maybe it could be a good career move. That is not the dream. So why is it the dream in comics? It really shouldn't be. It's really crazy when I step back and think of it that way. Don't be a hostage to your nostalgia. If you don't like the book, stop reading it. If you don't have an opportunity to write that character, who cares? In fact, put your best ideas into your own from the get-go. You don't have to be vying for those positions. He continues, all I do is cross the street, put new names on these stories, and they're mine. And I was like, that's effing smart, man. That him talking to Robert Kirkman, by the way. So that's what we did as well. Okay. So I don't know what ended up being the question, his idea for the question, but this is an interesting concept. It's something that gets brought up in comics a lot. And I've heard this line so many times before I broke into comics. People always said that, make your own thing. You don't want to work on their stuff. You want to make your own thing. But part of me is always in the back of your mind that you're not a real comic book creator. You don't have the clout unless you've been working on those properties, right? You aren't a real comic book creator until you can say, oh yeah, I'm the creator that worked on this for a while. Now I'm doing my own thing. You don't need to. Robert Kirkman didn't need to. I mean, do you remember maybe what has he done for Marvel compared to what has he done for himself? There's a big difference there. And some of it might be how much time and effort is put into that something. If you're going to be remembered for writing the question, then I'm guessing you probably put a lot of time and effort into writing the question. That could be very fulfilling. But if you step back and think about it, are you a hostage to your own nostalgia? Is your nostalgia the reason why you're not making something that lasts, not making a career for yourself because of that nostalgia, or still reading the same trash because of that nostalgia that has you hostage? I don't know. But you tell me in the comments below. I'm interested to know all of your opinions. Don't forget to back Downcast 3 Submerged on Indiegogo right now. Help us. I'm going to refresh this just in case. I have a good feeling here. Let's see. No, that was a bait and switch. You could be the next one when I refresh this. So it gets to 32K. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.